working. So you've got to do you actually need to work.
All right, meeting 4:30. It's called a finance personnel committee meeting to order. Make a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Motion made second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. First on the agenda is discussion and action on PC self-solution contract and/or RFP. PC?
Next August, our current contract with PC and Self Solutions is going to expire. And with it being the budget process right now, I need to know if we can extend out the contract another 2 years, or if the committee would like us to go to an RFP. Last time we had our previous contractor, they were charging us lakhs of hours, and it came up to about $37,000 for a year. Currently, from September of 2021 or 2020 to last month, it was just over $22,000 for PC and Self Solutions. So that's quite a difference in cost estimate. And that was over 8 years ago that price had been $37,000. Mr. Dowdy had given me some estimates of what the price would be for next year. He increased his remote support slightly, and then we did add a rush computer service. So if I drop off a computer at 4 o'clock and need it in the morning, he's going to add a $30 charge to the total of that. So that would be the only two differences in his pricing structure from current contract to new contract. I would really like to see us go again with them because they are local and they come after hours. The police department likes because they come after hours and they have night shift has a problem. Our other company that we had previously, we got them 1 day a week, if that. We just had a lot of issues with that. But I'd like to see what the committee would like to do with that.
I would make a motion to stay with the contract.
Second.
Motion been made and second to continue with PC Self Solutions contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Missy. All right, consideration of the police union contract. Jed?
Yep. Chief Slater also piggyback on the conversation as well, so we're gonna go it up. Before you is a copy of the draft police union contract that was negotiated for the next 3 years. Jeff can help you kind of go through the different type of scenarios that we propose for adjustments for the next 3 years. I don't know if you want me to start off with this here about
Sure. If you want to kind of scroll through it, you can get a touch on why things were changed.
So the first one I've got is changing the holiday pay, or the holidays. Page 3 up there. Minor change representing the change from Good Friday having a holiday to New Year's Eve. This is the red line version, I guess.
No. So the reason we looked at that is because everyone else in the city has New Year's Eve as a holiday, only the police union have Good Friday. So that it's simplified everything across the board. Just got that changed. The union had no issues with that.
With the HSA contribution, that was updating in the agreement. That is basically stating that in the past, the contract had a $3,000 HSA contribution with family, $1,500 contribution with Signal. That's going to be brought down to what we're representing for the entire city right now, with a $2,000 family and a $1,000 single contribution. We have the rest of the city right now. Residency. There was a change of residency. Currently, This is something that Jeff kind of wanted to really look at, and something that the police union was interested in as well. Just modifying the residency, the last boundary is officers need to be within a 15-mile radius, and they changed it to a 20-mile radius.
Sure. So this, we look at a lot of different things. Recruitment of officers in the future is one thing. We also talked to the police and fire commission. Police and fire commission felt comfortable with moving it to 20, but it is a negotiated item that needs to go through the contract. So there's some stuff that you'll see later on deal with changing the pay schedules and stuff like that. And it's felt that to give them a 20-mile radius was beneficial for recruitment and also for the officers to have a little bit further area to live in. It's always tough when you go radius because you start dealing with, you know, how long it's taking to respond. And that was always a big concern for us at one time, is how quick to get officers in here. But with cell phones and stuff like that, it's definitely increased our response time versus at one time you actually have to be in your house and answer your phone in your house when a lot of this was established. In cities across the state, you see everywhere from 15 miles to unlimited for different jurisdictions. So we thought we'd move it to 20 as to be one of those that works with the union as long as they're working with us.
The Word document, that's why we're not seeing the red line at the bottom. There's a Word document. There, page 13 of the line. Cool. Jeff was sick pay. One of the things that Jeff was having issues with trying to recruit officers that had experience already, and they had sick time and sick hours already built up, and that was one kind of itching point that trying to get new employees to come over from previous employment. So one thing that we talked about in here was upon the hire, also will be upfronted 2 years of sick time, 122 hours, but they won't accumulate anymore until they hit their normal time, they get the normal 192 hours.
And that is only for officers that are coming in laterally. So they already have experience coming from other departments. This is not a brand new officer. It's only involving lateral transfers from another department with a minimum of 2 years experience, right? The reason we kind of look at this is one of the last hires we had. He was actually a lieutenant down in Oshkosh Police Department with 10 years of service on, and he almost didn't come here because he knew he had to give up his sick time, but he felt the 5-on-5 off schedule he'd be okay, but he's got young kids. And we are looking at this as a possible way for contracting him for future hiring.
But again, the point is, if they're eligible for that, they'll get that 192 hours, but that's locked in until at a point they be building up until they hit that normal, I guess, point of time that they would start accruing. So they wouldn't accrue anything more until after that first year be fulfilled.
You know, so it would not affect any future payouts or anything like that, because they would have already like that amount of sick time during that.
Cool. Page 17. Let's talk about the pay scale.
I think we missed a couple other things, Chad. Okay. There's also one in there that deals with, we're allowed lateral transfers at 5 years of experience. What we're finding out now is that we need to start trying to attract officers with probably as little as 2 years experience in other departments to be able to lure them in here. So we got that changed to be able to do lateral transfer after 2 years instead of 5 years. It's probably the same area, just where.
Yeah, page 17. And Jeff, is that kind of indicated by after 3 years on page 17 of the salary?
Here you go,
Right
page
here,
12.
So we just changed the 5 years to 2 years. That's benefit to the city and to the department to be able to attract more officers. As you know, we're at a deficit right now in applications.
Then to page 17.
This one, we also changed the state statute number. Right there for Veterans Memorial Day, the state statute had changed, so they changed that and clarified at the bottom how that works as far as us giving the officer the day off. And them deciding if they want to work it, because then they would receive holiday pay. Or if they decide to work it, they don't get another day off in the future. So we make their choice. And then the salaries here, they looked at 2.5% for this next year, and then a minimum of 2% for whatever general municipal employees get for the next 2 years. And then that's for everyone hired prior to 6/30 of 21. Anyone hired after 6/30 of 21, we changed, as you see their pay raises were after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. And that was affecting us quite significantly when we have a bunch of hires currently like we do right now into the increases of salaries for the following year. So we're changing that to 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years to spread that out. Because shortly after I probably retire, you're probably going to have about 10, 12 officers right in a row retiring almost every single year. And that would put a large amount of weight on the budget stuff. This way, at least you'll have some breaks every other year for automatic raises for their seniority.
So essentially for the next 3 years, effective as of next year, we're looking at 2.5, but then the minimum based on whatever the council approves for general match. So it'll be a minimum of 2% 2023, and then 2% 2024. And the council does approve 2.5 or something. For general employees, and it would follow, it would mimic, to be fair, for the officers.
We just did a little bit of cleaning up here, stuff that is not consistent anymore that doesn't apply.
And this is all removed because all of this is not negotiable. No.
Right. I think that'd be about it.
So in a nutshell, I think the changes are kind of minimal. There wasn't a lot of negotiation back and forth. It was a very respectful negotiation. She gave us stories about the past where we go on for several days worth or years. It was very fair, respectful contract negotiation. We're looking for this to go to council for.
Police and Fire Commission is okay with everything?
Police and Fire Commission would have no say in any of the contractual stuff. But they, for example, the 20-mile radius, we ran at Aspen, and they gave their blessings on that they were okay with it, to be able to forward to you guys, to let you guys know that they would also support that. So I wouldn't see anything in there that they're not, but they are not part of the actual negotiations. So they, Kate was there, the mayor was there, Chad was there, and Lisa Winnie was there. This is what we came up with.
Any other questions? Accept the police union contract.
Motion to accept the police contract negotiation.
Motion. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chad. Next discussion, Possible action adjusting operation hours for staff and selected city services.
So I provided a copy of recommendation in your memo, or in your package, memo for that. Without going into verbatim, all the points I put in that memo. Basically, we're looking at creating some opportunities to be more attractive for employment recruitment and employment retention. This was a suggestion that employee made to me. Like I said in my memo, I was still laughing at that first, and this is something we want to do, but hearing that was something immediately after that, in the private sector on the radio, that's something that is definitely going on out there. I thought it'd be something we need to consider, as well as there's a lot of other municipalities that are doing this. So we provide us a survey that was done out there. Scroll down to that section. There's a number of other communities that are already doing this, so this is not something that we would be creating a wheel by any means. Again, this is something that we would look at being more attractive for employment, retention, and recruitment. Chief and I have had a discussion today about the law enforcement is and seeing the increased issues with recruitment in that sector. You know, I'm kind of very nervous about some of these other positions like building inspection and some of the higher level administration positions. On the wastewater treatment plant, you guys all know about the technical abilities that we need down there for staff. So we really need to focus on making sure that we're being attractive. Want to encourage our employees to be here long term. I think it's really going to become an issue as we go over time. It's already starting, where headhunters are going out and stealing from other municipalities. So we are going to feel that pressure from the bigger municipalities. We have felt it already, but let's feel that pressure from bigger municipalities on the try to place us through employees with. So this was the option to kind of look at. Talking with staff, varieties aren't quite so already. I had them document the amount of contacts, whether it was phone or to the counters for the last month and a half, and we'll have one or two in each counter, one or two phone call, two or three, depending on what's going on. So Fridays are quite slow in the office, and this would give us an opportunity to actually open the buildings a little bit earlier, maybe to kind of catch those people before they're going into work. We did talk about, is it necessary that it stay open late one day a week? Obviously, that wasn't very attractive because there's a lot of activities and stuff going on for employees and everybody in the meetings. But as you guys know, we have a lot of meetings, a lot of things going on that someone is here at times. We could have something on call or something as an appointment to try to accommodate those needs. So what I recommend right now is that we consider shifting the municipal building hours 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday. And then have a 4-hour shift on Fridays, 7:30 to 11:30. Those Friday afternoons. That still would not stop the fact that if we need to stay open for certain situations, expand hours for tax collection, things like that, that we would still consider that. So it's best to consider that recommendation.
Does this affect, like, people have taken votes for meetings?
This would be for the open hours for the building for the public. So in general, it would be a Monday to Thursday, 7:30 a.m. opening to 4:30. We're open to 4:30 right now. The building will still be open for weeknight meetings that we do. I mean, we're still going to be here in this room having our committee meetings and such, but during normal business hours for the counters and the phone calls, I'm recommending to modify those hours and goals and find that but be more than half an hour late.
But we would still have, like, our secretaries here taking meetings of our committee.
Yep, that would not affect, it wouldn't affect anything that you currently have for committee meetings. So the department has still come to committee meetings just like we do today. Just the open hours for public was like the window of the phone.
Great idea. I mean, I get all over, all factories all over the place. What 10-hour days, work 10-hour days and stuff. Great idea. People, as long as we got coverage on, say, maybe tax days and stuff like that, we have a big push for that. I think it's great.
See, a lot of them are just doing it during the summer. Would that make more sense to just do it during the summer hours?
We talked
That
about
way you don't
that.
have to worry about the tax collections and stuff like
Being
that.
consistent.
Huh?
We need to be consistent. I mean, changing hours through the summer, through the winter, tax collection.
Well, I mean,
Discussing.
look through your list, they have cities that are just strictly, this is their summer hours from. Just throwing it out there.
Summer year round, summer hours. When I initially started the conversation, we initially started just talking about summer. Then we thought, well, would it be better if we were just consistent year round so people know, oh, it's summer, which hours of the year are we at? So we just thought, be consistent throughout the whole year once. See how it goes. And like I said, in my memo, we need to evaluate this. That's why I would say in 4 months we come back and conversation. See what's working. You guys are a lot of complaints, we get a lot of complaints. See how it goes.
Should you want to maybe leave an opening in there for you to tax time, you should change it or modify it?
We do that anyway.
Yeah.
We'll modify building hours based on staff needs to, for the, public needs, but that's what it's for. We've done that in the past. That's not something we would have to come to the committee and say, we see over normal daily, based on what we feels the tax collection.
And with COVID last year, citizens have already modified how they started paying for their services with the city. So I believe that I just can't imagine that we're going to get too many citizens that are going to want to come in on a Friday afternoon and need something done at that time. And as we know, we all have procedures when something happens on a Friday afternoon anyway, so it's possible to get a lot of things done all in the afternoon on Friday. But tax collection in particular, everything is set up electronically. It costs them $0.25 if they pay out of their checking account. So in today's environment of gas, I think you almost want to hop online and pay $0.25 and pay your taxes online. But there's a lot of opportunities, and Missy does a great job putting out all that communication to our citizens. So hopefully with that, citizens have the ability to do a lot of that online.
We've also discussed the point of citizens that need to come in, so we can make special appointments if they can't make them. Facility rentals and stuff like that, with keys on Fridays. There's special operations that they take care of on that. And on the keys of returning and getting the keys to.
I don't think anyone at the city is opposed either. If we have citizens up and say, please, can you stay until whatever time that may be, we will bend over backwards.
I think it's a good idea too. I did kind of experience some of this through Thorntonville when they did this, and I asked them, they said, how did that go? And David was there, that administrator at the time when they changed it. He said it was very well received by not just citizens that kind of come, but contractors and even some of the employees that maybe street guys. But it just was well received, and then they had a changeover in administration. Their person that was up front, kind of lead man, became their administrator, so he got to see both ends of it, and he said they received very little pushback at all from the public. In fact, some of them enjoyed being able to take care of it before they went to work. They hadn't had that electronic pay system. The system Judy talked about, that really helps. So at the time, people were able to get that stuff taken care of before they went to work. So they appreciated the earlier hours, but then the one thing that he did say is expect a little bit of backlash on Facebook at first, and you may want to revisit it in 6 months, not just take that backlash on social media. But he said, definitely make sure you have a drop box outside so that if somebody does come here and have this consistency part is probably the key, like you said. It's probably more confusing to have summer. and winter ones, just consistent. But for them, it's been a great incentivizer towards recruiting. Employees. We've got a lot of changeover, so benefits definitely outweigh.
It's time to now, I mean, technology is requesting that there be less contact. We've already done that on the rec side. We have almost everything online. You can, sign up for programs, facility rental, membership, all this stuff is online. So not that we don't want to have the ability, but we definitely want to be here to have contact. Someone wants to talk to somebody, but it's time to put on all the services.
Thank you, Mr. Shea, for doing that research too. Reaching out, getting that information.
Actually, I was in some of the county, there is some position that comes to apparently come back to courthouse. Because we're done so well. Yeah, so why change it? So I say that change the technology, there are a lot of changes in the next few years. So,
I think we learned a lot from COVID too.
for sure.
All areas.
With the old hours, you guys were working 42.5 hours a week. Now it's gonna be 40 hours a week. Would there be any way you could modify it from 7:30 to say 7:30 to 4 to the same hours?
Employees were working 40 hours a week, but we were taking a full hour lunch, so they were not getting paid for that. With the new shift in there, they would just take a half an hour lunch instead of a full hour lunch. So staff would still be working 40 hours a week. We just wouldn't have to take a full hour lunch. Be here for all those hours. So yeah, don't be confused. We weren't paying overtime 2 hours a week for everybody who's not exempt. So it's still 40 hours a week.
So everybody can get their jobs done in the same amount of time. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so everybody should be still working at 40 hours.
I would still recommend revisiting it for 6 months. They did adjust a little bit over there. I think they started out at 7:30. They at 6 months or so, they tweaked it to 7. Tweaked it a little bit just based on
I think what we discussed was quarterly, 4 months.
It would be 4 months, maybe 6 months. We could shift that a little bit based on what we're getting. Like 4 months, we have to talk about 4 months.
they were minor changes that they did.
Yeah, I agree with you. You gotta monitor it, adjust accordingly. So maybe great on paper, but in actuality, it might change.
I make a motion that we have some adjusted operating hours for staff, expected city services.
Second. Made second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chair, who was the second one?
Motion carried. Thank you, Chad. All right. We've got a motion to add a temporary job description change from human resource payroll coordinator reporting to the city administrator. Chad?
Back in March of 2020, the council passed a motion to temporarily change the job description for the resource pay. Human resources / payroll coordinator, report directly to the administrator. I put my memo, kind of the reasons why action was taken. Over the past year, we've done a good job managing COVID. I don't think it's necessary right now. Managing the staff and being position the last 6 months, I think we're really fine with what we have. So I'm requesting the finance committee and the council to end that temporary job description and reporting assignments. We're still working together as staff. There's no reason why they still can't go to any staff member and have communication. So again, just looking at ending that temporary job description.
Make that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to that the temporary job description change to human resource payroll coordinator reporting to the city administrator. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The resolution designated public depository and authorizing withdrawal from city funds. Judy?
Okay, so, this is a change from, when did this resolution actually go before? May, in May, the reorganization. Nicole is reaching her 6 month probation, so tonight we will be adding her on to the resolution. So what this resolution does is that the first paragraph authorizes the city to put funds into these designated institutions, okay? So you can see First State Bank, Associated Bank, that's what the first paragraph does. All right, the second paragraph allows us to write checks. So a lot of what this resolution does is allow us to do business, to pay bills, to make payroll, things of that nature. So this one allows us to write checks, and then it allows myself, Nicole, the mayor, and Bob Bisa as the council president to be signers of those. We currently require 3 signatures on every check. Myself, the mayor, and Nicole automatically show up. Currently, it's just myself and the mayor. We will be adding Nicole to that list. There'll be 3 signatures on our payroll checks, on our accounts payable checks, and that's what this resolution does. The next one allows us to make our bond payments. So it allows us to electronically transfer money. So when I make a bond payment to New York, I have to go to a secured site through First State Bank, let them know what bank account I'd like those dollars to be made out or taken out of, and then send it off to this address in New York. This last one allows us to stamp signatures. So each of us have a stamp within the office. Let's say the mayor is sick or in the hospital, or he can't come into town to sign something. It allows us to stamp his signature on any kind of document, and that is just like his actual signature. So that's what the next paragraph does. And then it allows either Nicole or myself to invest funds. That's what the final paragraph does. So at this point, you've already approved this document, like Nicole said, in May, but this adds Nicole on as a signer. And that way, if something happens to me, now I can move forward with Nicole and show her how to do these things that are talked about and discussed within this resolution. So that if something happens to me, those things can be but one never knows.
It's talking about retiring, I'm not so sure.
You're right.
Judy, you say we have stamps. Do we use 3 stamp or?
Yep, we can use all 3 as stamps. It's considered an authorized signature, just like, yep. One of the practices that we have internally though, is I would not, well, if I can get to the mayor and he knows, I ask him, can you get in to sign this? Because we prefer it be an original signature. If that is impossible, then the person of whom I am going to stamp, I would call and tell them, well, I'm going to stamp this. We've had this conversation before in the past. I'm going to stamp that since you can't make it in. The stamp, because there's sometimes documents that will come to me in one day and they're due that same day. And if we can't connect, then it just makes it easier for us.
Yeah, I guess I would have no problem with one. I'm old fashioned, I guess. But if all 3 were stamped, how would we know if somebody wasn't?
Well,
You know, if 2 of you sign on one stamp, I could see, no, that.
You wouldn't be able to, because the person doing the stamping is one with the access sign. So no matter what, there'd be one signature on there no matter what.
our stamps are kept in our safe.
Somebody's gonna have to initiate the request to stamp.
Yeah, so no matter what, I know exactly what you're saying, it's a establishment. You know, but one of them has to be here to actually
Yeah.
grab the stamp, so they would have to sign it. We have no like. months in each.
Somebody has to stamp the other person's name.
When they make those stamps, you probably know. That's pretty good money. And there's security features for.
Yep.
We won't talk about.
And it would be pretty difficult for somebody, so they would have to be the person to write that check. And then they would have to cover that check out, and so we have somebody who actually writes accounts payable, writes payroll checks, and then those flow into me and I double check everything. So it would take a lot for somebody, and I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but if it did happen, it would be caught pretty quickly, because we have enough checks and balances in place that once it got to me, if I knew that wasn't a vendor or something that didn't smell right, that I would definitely do some investigation into that. And then how would it be in the same sequence, or be all kinds of things that would probably red flag that for me when I'm going to a balance in my checkbook.
I'd like to emphasize too, our communication. I mean, there's 4 people that can sign this. There's communication between them. That like June said, she'll call me, physically talk to each other, what's gonna happen. So I mean, if something's done, our communication, we know whether or not it's happening. I mean, that is transition to
And, right, and we use those stamps in very rare circumstances. Like I said, only if some document has to be signed today, and it needs to be to the state usually in a timely manner. We have to have a way to sign those things.
Motion.
Make a motion that we have a resolution designated public depository authorizing balance.
Motion made, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we need to set the date for the budget hearing. Judy?
What I'm hoping, and I put actually on the agenda itself, was that we could meet, and then John, I was the one I was going to ask, would Wednesday, October 15th work for everyone at 4:30, or John, would you prefer us starting at 5? 13, sorry.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, October 13th, and this is our budget hearing. So this is when I would present to you the 2022 budget. Does that work for everyone? And then just to let you know, we were kind of talking about the capital projects and when we were thinking that we were going to schedule one, just so you guys are kind of thinking about that. I think actually in the month of November after our finance committee meeting, our first capital project. So just put that in there for that, to know that that's what we're thinking about for our capital projects. Yeah. All right, then we're all set with that.
All right, moving on to finance director monthly reports.
All right, well, I'll take over. All right, so we will start with the expenditures, and we should be at approximately, if we look at months, 7 months have gone by, so we're in July, so about 58.33%. So the insurance is always high because we pay that at the beginning of the year. But otherwise, their equipment replacement, we bring in a lot of capital project reserve funds or designated funds that will make up the difference at the end of the year. So nothing is standing out to me that we will be over budget in any category at this time. Anyone have any questions on any of the expenditures? Good in total. This is actually how we, in the budget process, will approve. We have that in our budget hearing.
Why did you budget this year for gas, for fuel versus what you're going to be budgeting for next year? The price?
So I believe it's $4 a gallon for next year. 23.
It was this year.
Mhm. 25.
But actually more, that's.
Right, and when I look at, so when I sit down next week, in fact, and look at the 2022 budget, what I do is I compare what we spent, keeping in mind that COVID was here. And I'll take a look at what was budgeted in 2021, see where we're at halfway through the year. And if it looks like that dollar amount is adequate or more than enough, I'll leave it steady. If it looks like, and actually I'll go a couple years because of COVID, so I'll look back, I usually have 4 years in front of me when I'm doing the budget. So I'll look back a couple more, so if this one looks low for some reason, I'll go back in the year before and take a look at it. But I will do those adjustments once I sit down next week and just take a second look at it to make sure that it looks like we're gonna have enough money in 2022. But I agree, yes, we're not really sure where gas prices are going to go. We haven't had a lot of meetings and mileage within the city, so we do have a lot of continuing education that a lot of employees have not been able to go to because of COVID. In fact, one of my conferences just got moved to virtual next month, which I was a little bit shocked at. So it looks like some of our stuff might be moving back into virtual. So we're saving some dollars there. So my thought process through that too is, okay, what is that going to look like going in 2022? But yes, Bob, I will definitely take a look at that and see where we're at as of, 6 months into this year, and then I'll double it and then make sure when those numbers come in that they look like they're going to add. So where those dollars are going to, where gas is going to, that's up in the air, but you also don't want to put so much in gas that you're putting all your resources and all your money into that line item and then bear it since at the end of the year. Although we'll move it to capital, but there's kind of a fine line of what is that going to look like. I'll talk about that as I present the budget. I'll talk to you about the process that I went through when I put those numbers in there. You're welcome. Right, that's the expenditures. Revenues. Property taxes, we did collect in August, so you'll see that come into 100% next month. The county pays us 100%, and then they have to go and collect taxes that are in arrear. Interest is, as we all know, any liquid dollars at this point are just not gaining a lot of interest at this time. We do have some investments that are going to bring us up to the 64.3. I do book our investments at the end of the year, so we do have enough currently in investments if those investments stay as they are today to cover the difference that our liquid assets are not making. So I don't see any problems in that area. Otherwise, everything seems to be coming in as in our state shared revenue. You'll see we received a small dollar amount in July. The rest of that comes in November, and that comes from the state of Wisconsin. And we collected just about all of our highway A's and library A's come in two times a year, so twice a year. So we collected the first half of that. And we'll be collecting the second half of that shortly. So also on the revenue side, I don't, at this point, there won't be any revenue that will not be collected at 100%. So we will be good also there. Any questions on any of those? Then we move to assigned and unassigned fund balance. I have not made any changes from the last meeting on unassigned and assigned fund balance. The only time that I would make any changes to this is if this committee itself made a change to any unassigned or assigned fund balance. So those decisions actually get made at the financial committee meeting. So if anything was changed, let's say we have a piece of equipment that goes down, we have had a snowplow in the past that went down, and we had to emergency purchase something, you would see that listed specifically on here because you probably go to unassigned fund balance at the bottom here and you purchase that piece of equipment, so you can't live without it. So anything that is made at that, those decisions are made, I would update as we make those decisions throughout the year. But we have not had any changes within our assigned or unassigned fund balance yet this year, which is a good thing. 798,000 debt service year to year currently this year. And our budget is about 8 million. Now remember that when we'll take a look at debt service in our next debt in our next meeting, but we are by state statute only allowed to take 5% of our equalized value out of debt, and then we don't do that. So then you hold some back, so you get good interest rates. So I think that play into our debt service capacity. I'm going to talk about a little bit more on that. All right. And then we will move to wheel tax, and there really hasn't been much change. We did collect a little bit more in revenue. And again, we're looking at possibly, well, the Shadow Street project, so that looks like it's coming to completion, so we should get those bills in shortly. And that's the wheel tax, and then we have our bonding schedule. As we know, in 2020, we took out a almost $4 million bond. These are the projects that we anticipated. The jail cells and the kitchen cabinets are finished. Warner Allen Road is finished, but not completely built yet. And then the city hall roofs and the police department roof are completed, but we have one more bill that we need to pay for that, and then those will be finished. Library roof, we're still trying to see if we can get the shingles or whatever you want to call them for that roof. And then Newton Blackmore Trail too was also just currently being worked on. So those dollars still sit there. I'm going to tell you now, we have received some really good, these were estimates when we started on these projects. And when the bidding went out, we received some really good bidding on these projects, and there are some dollars left in this bonding. We'll be talking about that more at the next. And that's our bonding schedule. Any questions on that?
Yeah, the finance director's report, Judy.
All right, so just some of the things that I completed in August. I submitted the insurance information to SIGMIC on an annual basis, and this isn't health insurance, this is more general liability, fleet, cyber. There was a number of additional questions that both IT and the police department had to go through this year, so it's a little bit more extensive than we were used to. Working with others in the office on the completion of TID 4 and 5, we continue to work on that. And I met with the health insurance carrier, and we are continuing to work through that process. Working with the department heads on the budget process, answering questions. Video service providers. Continue to monitor the ARPA funding. There are some great opportunities coming up for grant dollars that the state, on top of all municipalities and all the townships, that receive money from ARPA. So did the state of Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin is going to be putting out some grant dollars. So there's a list of funding opportunities that we believe in Wisconsin municipalities, and we will all as a be watching that to make sure that if there's anything that looks like it's going to benefit us or can benefit us, we'll get $5 million. So the area where all of us like to keep our eyes on that. I attended the joint review board meeting along with staff members, and the rest of was at the project provides bondholders with status, our financial status, and treasurer's conference, by whom. Time when you put together the information for the next meeting. Questions on any of that?
That's the motion.
Five minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we're
5:30, we'll call the council meeting of the whole to order. Roll call is taken. Move into adoption of the agenda. Motion made, seconded by Mr. Czar, seconded. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move along, presentation, discussion, and action regarding funding for the library annex project. And we'll leave that out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, so when we met last, we talked about, and presented the budget for both the library and the annex project. What was put forward at that time that we had a couple to make a decision about, as a committee, make a decision about what are you going to do, or what are you going to do about funding the library. So it took me some time to think about how to present this to you guys. Spent a lot of weekends thinking, time walking, and how can I present this to you so that you have some choices to make. So as your finance director, it's my job to bring up ideas, and then you as the committee decide how you're going to do it. So I ultimately came up with as you know, the library at last meeting requested that the city of New London consider donating $750,000 to the library annex, and specifically those dollars, $150,000 in 22, 2023, and $250,000. At that meeting, I talked about a referendum. I showed you how that referendum would work, and I included it again in the packet tonight. So, if the decision for the library to go to referendum, what would that look like? Okay. So, again, I'm giving an example. So, we have $500,000 taken out in debt over a 10-year period would cost a $200,000 homeowner $32.81. Okay. Now, if the library were to go out to referendum, they would have a choice on what this looks like. So I'm just giving you examples. This isn't saying this is what they're going to do. So just this is an example for example purposes. So if they went to referendum and they, again, it was a $500,000 debt and they chose to lower 5 years, then it would just double. So we have $56.79 on a $200,000 home for a taxpayer. Or it would be $150,000 for $150,000. I'm just trying to show you how that process would work. So the other option is to help the library. So I came up with an option for this committee to consider fund the library. And in this option, I took a look at year 2022. And one of the things that we still have to do this year is we have to go up for a state trust fund. As part of our 2020 bonding, I'm not sure if all of you were here as part of that discussion when we put bonding in 2020. But the group here at City Hall, both the offices and here of City Hall cannot be taken out of that bonding that I talked about earlier. There's a stipulation in the law that says that it's used for either the City Hall offices or this area. We have to take out a different type of financing source. So I will be coming forward to finance committee next month to talk about what that dollar amount is going to look like for our state trust fund. So this isn't bond or debt process that I'm going to go through. Or that I'm going to go through. Just if you choose to use this for funding the library, you would have to go through this process. This isn't another process that I'm going through. So my thought process was, we do have, and I talked about this, in our 2020 bonding, we do have some projects that are coming in a lot of the budget. So, in fact, $100,000. So when I'm saying that we could use part of that, those dollars to help the library in 2022 for funding, I'm not saying that all of the money is going to the library. There's other things that we would like to use some of those dollars for. I'm saying some of the savings from 2022 could be, again, food social. Put forth to help them, as you know, they are looking to break ground next year. Another source would be our fund balance. We actually are at $3.2 million at the end of 2020 in our fund balance. Taking $50,000 from our fund balance would be another idea that I think would be a great opportunity for the city to help in the year 2022. Okay, and then the $100,000 from the state trust fund loan would be money in addition to the money that I am already going to be taking out. So that is a way that the city could fund library budget in 2022. Now we look forward to 2023. I know when I talked about this at the last meeting, I said, this is really hard because we have so many revenue sources coming in right now. Some of them still up in the air that we're not really sure of. And a lot of moving targets going on right now. So 2023 is the most difficult. We don't get to bond every year, so definitely not going out to the door or take out another loan in 2020. But one of the things that we did know, looking at our school district for downtown is that we could use some of the money from that project to help fund parts of that budget. Pay all of that funding out of that revenue source. We can pay for the parking and the seating. We can pay for the outside parking and the seating that they were going in the outside of that area. So that could be the money that we use in 2023 to pay for those areas. Also, there is, I talked about the state ARPA grant funding opportunities that we have been watching. There is one that looks like the library would be eligible for. So, and I've already talked to Ann about this. We're going to keep an eye. It's not available yet for us to look at what all the of that opportunity is. But when it becomes available and when we're able to apply, we'll take a really good look at that opportunity. And I would work with Ann on that grant. So, how much that is, we have no idea at this time. But it's next time on this, we actually earmark some money for it, and it should have expected to come out sometime in the next 3 months. It's state funded. I don't know if they're about the library is not. We would not use our funding for ARPA, but the state is saying that their funding could be used for the library. We looked at it, and we know matches a little bit what they were talking about in their description from the state. So it's state government money, not the city government. Also, the library will see an increase, as you know, of some sort. We don't know what it's actually going to look like at the end of the day, but they will see an increase in their operational expenses. It was minimal, like about $8,000. That's what that estimate was. And just to give you a little bit of history, which I think is only fair, I might come back and say, hey, you're going to tell me, we did put half of the cost of disposal of a building. Trophy shop. So when the trophy shop, when they acquired the library acquired the trophy shop, we paid to have half of that disposal of that building. The city of New London, not the city of New London paid to have half of that building. We also did put some money into a mixed use library study. So there was some city money that was being used to help with the library as a one time. I just wanted you to know a little bit of that history. Okay, and then for the 2024 ask, I would ask that money be included in the 2024 bonding. We'll be going out to bonding in 2024. We have our downtown project going on, and we will need to fund that project. Now, this could be less depending on what other funding sources look like. So I say, okay, so what if the state grant opportunity comes along and it's $500,000? Well, that means that that's more something. So we've already exceeded our $750,000 of ask. So then when it comes to 2024, we can move dollars. I also think it's really important that you take a look at together here. Okay, I know one of the biggest concerns as a committee is your constituents are, we need our roads, right? How can we get money to a project when you know how much our roads need to be funded? So put together a schedule of what our roads are going to be done for the next 6 years. These are estimates. Document for me. I tried to do the best I could, trying to overestimate on the financial side and underestimate on the revenue side, so that when this comes to fruition, we'll be able to set it. So we have Lyon, Lyman, and Avon Streets that we received some CDBG funding for. We will be completing those projects next year. They have to be done next year. We have decided that we would like to push about $1 million into that project. This again is something that will be decided and looked at different meetings, and we will have a second chance to say yes or no to how much funding is going in any particular area. This isn't the end all be all, but just a really good map, I think, or a visual of what our city is going to be doing in the next 6 years when it comes to road projects.
Judy.
I have Pearl Street done. Sorry, I can't see the whole thing.
Sorry, I didn't want to jump ahead.
Yep. Try to get it all in one shot, and I can't see it. I'm just gonna be honest that I can't see it, but it's smaller. Boy. All right, so as you can see in 2022, then we have 23, actually 20, this course should be 24 with 2023 is the Lucas Court. What is that project?
I need to look at this sort of more like the switch, and it's the western half of the switch. There is the library on there now, and development agencies that wants 75% more of the lots on developed than the top layers that are installed. They're relatively easier projects, not there can't be a cost share or something like that, so researching that.
Wouldn't anticipate this to be a huge dollar line, if nothing in there. We have not, that's The downtown project is 2024. The library is 2020. This is what we would need. This is the third ask, the third year ask at the library 24. We did Court and State Street. We've always talked about doing Lincoln Court and State Street in conjunction with the downtown connect. So we're a little bit concerned that we would go in 1 year and complete the downtown and then go, we don't want to go back and then complete 2 side streets. Idea was to get both of those done at the same time. And then Oshkosh Street in 2025. This would be the 2024 bonding, right? And on the side is all the revenue sources. So we have the CGE funding, the 2020 bonding cost savings, and I tried to tie these together in color. So line, and Amon Street. That's where those dollars are coming from. The bonding and the CGE funding. Okay, and the downtown with the 80-20 grants and TID 5. Also know TID 5 has not been passed yet. So those negotiations are still being worked through. So at this point, for $475,000 to use for the downtown, hopefully comes to fruition in the next couple months. That contract is still. The funding, 742, we received half of that. We received the second half in summer of next year. Then we put $320,000 and $72,000 in the wastewater treatment plant budget each year. This accounts for 3 years of that dollars. Those dollars is for road projects, so I added that in there. And it's for this is Fred Swap. So there's $970,000 anticipated coming in from that Red Swap project for these 2 districts. That's been a huge theme at the city when it comes to our road projects. As you can see, the difference between our sources and uses is $2.15 million. We actually anticipated as a city for these things like 600. What this is going to allow us to do what is allowing us to do vision even farther out as far as roads are concerned. And we have to look at 2026 when we look at Mill Street and 2027 Pearl Street. Consultant and Jan are actually working on trying to get the second 80-20 grant for our Pearl Street project. And if it does come to fruition, we'll have another $1.358 million bonding in 2027. So this is what the next 6 years of road projects looks like for the city of Vermont. And as you can see, I did not add the wheel tax as revenue in here. Okay. If the wheel tax does continue, Jen and I had this discussion, we would like to hold on to that for the smaller projects that we already have there marked. There's a bridge, some work that needs to be done on the street. Yep. Right. We'd like to just keep that as dollars if something comes up that we can utilize that funding for smaller projects. So we will leave the wheel tax funding out of this formula at this time. But as you can see, this is a great snapshot of what the funding is going to look like for our street projects. This also does not take away from our maintenance budget. So our maintenance budget that we do like $25,000 for roads and $25,000 sidewalk. That will also be budgeted, but it's budgeted as part of our capital project. Continue to have hopefully close to $300,000 in our capital project budget to continue to do those maintenance items. We're not also pulling from this for anything for maintenance dollars. So this is what, if you were to library and I were to go out for the state trust fund on, and like I said, this has to be done, whether or not the library is included in here. This is what that schedule would look like. We would hit this hard and pay it off in dollars for civilian interest in our budget. We don't want that to drop. So if we budget these dollars and add them into this current schedule, we will set ourselves up, so we're gonna go back to 798, almost 800,000 here, 800,000 here, 800,000 here. Then we're gonna drop, so we'll have paid off that debt in 3 years. We'll drop to $743,000 in 2025, which allows us to take out our 2024 debt and then push in 2025 our next benchmark. So it's gonna set us up to keep, number one, our tax levy steady over time, and number two, allow us to do that in 24. So always are a year behind when you take out that year. The next year when you're actually paying principal and interest on the tax. Take it out in 24, our first payment will be in 2025, and then the state trust fund loan will be paid off, and we would have the capacity to make some nice big payments going forward into those next years. Also wanted you to take a look at the capacity that we talked about. So we are allowed, our current utilized value times 5% gives us the capacity to get $20,800,000 in round numbers. Okay? When we hit 2024, we'll be at $8.5 million. If you go up to 28, that, so you're going to hold back about a third of that money in order to get the best interest rates. We're at 8.5 in 2024. So maybe I need to and so then you can see in 2024, in 2024, our capacity at the time that we're looking at about $2.1 million to $5.1 million. So if the question is, can we afford to run in 2024? Can we afford to finance what we're looking at financing? The answer is yes, and we're not even putting ourselves at capacity. I also think we can afford to do this because we are doing, I think, on our project, as you can see here. And the actual total of this body of $8.9 million for the library would be 0.8% of that $9 million. Remember too, next year is 2023. Next year, the request would be that we go ahead and fund the $250,000 out of these three sources. And then in 23, at this point, we don't know what's going to happen. What is that? How much is the parking and seating going to cost? It actually during the comes to fruition, and that has to happen first. What's the state grant opportunity? Like how much money could we possibly get from the state? If that is larger than what we think it may be, and hopefully is, then we won't have to take the $200,000. So, like that's what I laid out for you. I spent a lot of time thinking about this and what would be the best way for the city to be able to help on the library projects in a way that we do not raise taxes, in a way that if you can take a look at it and show your constituents that you are spending money on roads. You're putting $9 million into the road system. And this is just another way for the city especially when we know we're gonna do what we to the downtown in 2024. We're trying to beautify that area and get people to go downtown and buy things. And then you look at the downtown multifamily housing and you think, well, you're gonna put people there. And then you're gonna have a library here and then you're gonna, they can, all they have to do is walk down a bridge and around the corner to the downtown. Two options is to fund the project and you choose to fund it in a manner which I laid out, or to ask the library for whatever.
Express what they want.
Well, what Judy had laid out. Last year and a half, 2 years, come on, there's been questions. Instead, there's been a lot of discussion. Started out with a whole different idea. Now we're presenting something different. Spent a lot of time with finance director, city administrator, finance chair, of course. Constituents ask us a lot about roads. Listen to them. Yeah. Listen to stuff. Set up Facebook, open the streets. Huge concerns are our streets. We've laid out a great opportunity here. 11 roads that are projected to be done. We just passed a contract, yesterday for the tax council. So we've answered that question. The next question is our city finance and stuff. Judy laid out a great opportunity here. We're not going to have to raise taxes and still fund this opportunity. Next thing I look at too is our tax levy. By doing this, it'll keep us in compliance with tax levy. We're just talking that I think in 6 years we're going to start. Maybe it's going to be sooner than that, 4 years ago. We slowly fall out of compliance. But I know Judy had worked with Adam. This sets us up for a good position for that, so we don't have to keep raising taxes. Stay where we're at. I think it answers both questions. Questions of people that are asking for the money for the library, and questions of our constituents on both sides that don't want it, that do want it for all the reasons. Discuss this in extent. I think I fully support this, knowing the growth that the city is having, what we're looking at with like you said, our building projects, street projects. I think this is just a good ability to the city.
Finance chair, economic development chair. This is something we really need. What it costs the taxpayers. Now, playing this all for everybody, how it's going to work. Same, just reading your son for tax. That's economic development, we have going on. I think it only helps.
I like the brief discussion. Tax dollars ones in the city. I think those are more. It's good to have. Minimize that tax impact. City, good fiduciary management, lead up to us. And the other thing, in your packet, there is 2 pages of donors. And the business leaders that have employees of their town. And it raised pretty much now probably $2 million. And that list that's in the packet has many more as to it. Continue to be added. To me, that's a statement of our constituents right there. I just think that it's time to what's really favorable. Time is now. Any further delays. Yeah, it's important to have that referendum option, but I don't think that that's the wise way to fund this right now. When you look at this financial picture, when you look at the timeline, I think it's just wise to do this. Make that 3-year commitment. Wait to see how many more contributors will in line. That whole thing. Say this is good for our community. This is good for our citizens. And I think it's time to hold them. At least having that over.
I'll make a motion to follow these 3-year plan.
Say, depending on where you want, it's either A or B. I think B was the motion to have the city fund it. Our finance directors, you know,
Funded by option G, the finance director's legal policy. Okay.
That's that commitment.
motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the floor?
Yes, I have make a comment, to you. This is you, you're wonderful citizen, right? You did a great job. But at the end of the day, this is 750 that's supposed to test. There's a lot of what ifs. There's and my concern is if you ask people in the community, people are like, oh yeah, it's about time to migrate to library. This is 10,000 square foot building. The library is sitting where it's at, and these new students where it's at. A lot of people are excited that the library is moving because then you can take out the whole building. I feel like people in the community want a bigger museum or the bigger library. People that are friends of the library, they've contacted the city to ask for $750,000. They said, really? I thought that was all information. They were confused by the city had to contribute to even build the facility. It's going to be a very big project. It's going to be 20 years down the road. Our grandkids are going to be, oh man, we got a roof on this. So to just say let's go ahead and approve $750,000, ongoing budget unknown, because I feel like the budget is still undervalued. It's a big risk, and not letting the people of the town voice it has been, I don't believe there's been any interaction with getting what the people want. Is this what they want? I mean, are we building up conference rooms? Can we add on to the Washington Center? Or, is there any other alternatives? It doesn't seem like it's a need in the city. Not to mention, we just got off COVID, and everyone found other places to get the internet, places to get information. So I guess I'm really concerned that we're not going referendum when we have a referendum 10 years ago for $250,000 to fix up the theater. That's 1/3 of what we're asking. It's a lot of money, and I don't feel comfortable going forward with our referendum. If it was our referendum and it did go through, I said I would support it. But I feel there's so many people in the community that there's more people against it.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? Yes, Travis. Pass. All in favor, say aye.